Welcome to dojo.live, the place where top minds in travel and hospitality check in to share insights and breakthroughs shaping the industry. Brought to you by Encora, your trusted partner for AI, cloud, and data-driven innovation. Enjoy your stay. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Encora's Dojo Live, where we have candid conversations with industry leaders tackling the biggest challenges in technology in the travel and hospitality industry. I'm your host, Kim Lantis, and today is May 7th, 2025. We're back with episode number 6 in our Redefining the Digital Storefront Insights from Hospitality's Direct Booking Leaders. Today's topic is going to be Beyond Booking Hotels, How Extended Stay is Winning the Future of Direct Business Travel. And of course, I'm not going to be here alone. I'm going to be joined by my co-host, America Guerrero.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you, JR. It's great to be here in today's show.
Yeah,
That's
appreciate
right.
it. Look forward. Yeah, look forward to a great conversation.
Absolutely. And our guest, J.R. Dembiec. JR is here to explore how shifting travel expectations and corporate needs are shaping the extended stay experience as brand president of Reside. As America said, JR, welcome so much to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the invitation and super excited to chat with you both.
We're excited too because, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, this particular conversation is the only conversation on our direct booking series specifically focused around extended stay. So it's definitely going to be unique in that regard and hopefully very valuable for our audience. But before we get there, JR, we would love to know a bit about your journey in hospitality, what led you to Reside, and of course, what keeps you excited in this space.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate it. So I am, as you said, the brand president for Reside and our affiliation with Wyndham Hotels, which is a soft brand we call Reside, a Wyndham Residence. I have been at the company about 8 years now, which has gone super fast. You know, you sort of blink and here you are. So my hospitality journey, I would say, has been a bit unconventional. I'm a lawyer by trade, so started my career at a law firm here in New Jersey where I work. And after about 5 years there, went in-house. So joined a corporation, a public company in Chicago, Illinois. Spent about 5 years at that company as the assistant general counsel. And then probably most relevant to this conversation, I joined a company called Cendant Corporation. And back in the day, before it split, Cendant was a $20 billion NYSE holding company in the travel, real estate, and hospitality space. So at the time, we owned brands like Avis and Budget and Orbitz and Galileo and of course, all the real estate brands. I was really honored and humbled to take the position as general counsel for Century 21 Real Estate worldwide. We had about 8,000 offices in 100 countries at the time. Cendant also owned Coldwell Banker, ERA, Sotheby's. So I spent about just under a decade there and eventually was the general counsel for all of the real estate group brands. At that time, though, I was able to make some connections, of course, cross-functionally with the other hotel side of things, including Wyndham. And led to our current affiliation. So kind of a winding route, spent, I would say the last 20 years in pure hospitality at a company in Washington, D.C., and then now headquartered in Reside just outside Seattle in the Pacific Northwest.
All right, wonderful. So let's dive a bit more into the relatively recent Wyndham partnership. That's quite a major move. What inspired that alignment? How does Reside position itself differently in terms of traditional extended stay offerings? Tell us a bit more.
No, it's a great question. And, the answer is really built around a business thesis that is, the same thing you see every day, supply and demand. And so, joining Reside and looking at our operation across the world, really, we were sitting on tons of supply, principally apartments, although we're into single family homes and some other types of accommodation, but principally apartments. And so we had a ton of supply worldwide. Wyndham, of course, is a very large hotel group, $9 billion public company with a significant amount of demand. And so having re-engaged with some of the folks I knew when I was at Cendant, we started a conversation right before the pandemic, believe it or not, which led us a few years later to this sort of 10-year agreement where we're going to offer a product in this sort of residential hospitality space, which is sort of multifamily apartment buildings functioning as a hospitality product. And so it's a great alignment, around two companies with the specific expertise. You look at Reside, we're a 35-year-old hospitality management company that services some of the largest corporations in the world. Our business now expands across 60 countries and about 19,000 cities, where we're booking extended stay travel for, again, the Fortune 100 when they're looking for stays longer than a typical hotel stay. And so we're servicing them across the globe. And so there's a real focus with this new offering with Wyndham to satisfy the transient traveler, of course, but also overlaying that with our extensive experience in extended stay.
Amazing. And you touched on this a tiny bit. Interesting that this all started aligning before the pandemic. But this does bring us to our core theme, which has a lot to do with now post-pandemic, and that's business travel being back. But it's not probably quite the same as it was before then. What changes are you seeing in demand for extended stays, and especially to your point for the corporate traveler?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there are some nuances there for sure. I would say on the extended stay side, we're in a very robust extended stay market. I know the Highland Group said that we're in sort of an accelerating growth cycle right now when you look at extended stay, and it's not that dissimilar to the period between 2015 and 19, where I think we absorbed 100,000 extended stay units. And added revenue of close to $5 billion. So I think that that's accurate. Demand is very strong, even in a tighter lending environment. I think that approximately 36 to 40% of current hotel projects are in the extended stay segment. So you're seeing a real move into that area for sure. And then the biggest testament, I think, is the big brands. And the big brands over the last sort of decade have moved into this space pretty aggressively. And I think the portfolio has grown among the biggest players about 50% in that 10-year period. So, which kind of ties right back into our affiliation with Wyndham. Obviously, Wyndham is playing in that space and wants to be the clear leader. And I think looks at this opportunity and this blended residential hospitality as sort of the next iteration of extended stay across the board.
Wow. Those numbers actually surprised me. I was not expecting anywhere between 36 to 40%. And it leans heavily into what we're talking about today. With that much of your percentage going to extended stay, it's really convenient in your benefit to have them be direct bookings rather than something that you're going to have to pay out a commission on. So I know that, but I think America's got a question for you or a couple before we dive into.
Yes, this makes me think there are some travelers. I'm thinking about my husband, for example. He got a new job. We needed to move, and the company paid for us to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks. And there are more situations that there are people that they need to stay there for 1 month or two. So that makes me think, what are the traveler expectations shifting, especially for midterms or extended stay guests? Because here with my husband, I remember that if he felt that he was secure and his wife was there, waiting for him, and we had all the accommodations, we had laundry, we had everything we needed it, so he could focus on his job, right? So that kind of needs, how are they changing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, we pride ourselves on being a strong partner to our corporate clients. And a big part of our business is exactly that, which is corporate relo and people transferring anywhere around the world and looking for, a product that can satisfy their needs, either ahead of the rest of their family joining or immediately. And so obviously space is a large consideration. So when you're given a corporate apartment or a residential product under our Wyndham program, you're getting greater space, you're getting kitchens, you're getting separate bedrooms. And when you stack that up against a traditional hotel stay, there's really not a comparison in terms of functionality, what a family would need, what a new employee would need in a new city. And so we've seen obviously a large demand for that across the board. The other thing we're seeing is even digital nomads, not necessarily a relo, but they're on the move. They're logging in from anywhere around the world, and our product is a perfect destination for them. You've got a full desk, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got all the amenities you need to do your job on a remote basis from really anywhere in the world. And then I think the third thing I'd say is we've seen a lot of intergenerational travel now as well. And so you're starting to see on the extended stay basis, grandparents coming or extended family beyond the traditional family and the kids and the spouses. And I think that's another avenue that we're really exploring as we look at, what this platform can be and how we can satisfy those guest expectations.
Wow, that's really interesting in terms of like generational things, or even to America's point, safety in terms of like apartments that are better outfitted for someone who might have a physical disability or things like that. I think is ways to enhance this idea of personalization that's so big in the industry. Before we keep shifting toward the corporate side, because we do want to talk about that, I do have a question in terms of bleisure, which is connected to the corporate traveler, of course, but blending business with leisure, right? How is that also influencing how guests are searching, booking, and experiencing the extended stay properties?
Yeah, it's become such a big part of what that experience is. And I think even corporate buyers, and we deal with a lot of them with the companies that we're talking to and servicing, they recognize the fact that the business trip is a perfect example to tack on some extra days and perhaps use some vacation or extended stay opportunities there to make their trip just a bit longer. And so corporations are recognizing the value in that, allowing their employees to do that since they're already in situ there on site. We pay a lot of attention to the Gen Z and millennial traveler as well. And I think the most recent stat I saw said 45% of Gen Z or millennial travels are looking for that bleisure experience. They value the corporate travel piece as a real escalator for their career and their training. And I think about 60% or so of folks felt that was super important, but a lot are adding on that additional trip. We're seeing that mostly in APAC, a little bit less in North America, but it is growing for sure.
No, that makes perfect sense, because it's like if I'm already traveling literally to the other side of the world for work, I'm gonna I'm gonna stay here and get some fun done as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's funny. Skiff said that 2025 was going to be the year of the long getaway. And I think we're seeing that absolutely. When you look across corporate bleisure and just leisure travel, people are extending their stays. They want a much more immersive experience. And again, we feel like our product is, perfectly positioned to kind of satisfy all of those different agendas.
I totally see it. Before having a baby, we were kind of adventurous, and I'm 26 years old, and so I can share that I know that feeling of exploring the world, staying in that kind of hotels, and just without worrying about what you're going to eat or if you have the kitchen. It totally makes sense. But now, turning the lens to corporate buyers, how are these travelers shifting the impact what travel managers and corporate bookers need to or expect? What?
Yeah, no, it's a great question again. And, it gives us an opportunity to really service both sides of our business. We have our 360 property tech platform, which services hundreds of, Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 clients. And then we've got the Wyndham affiliation as well. And there's actually a really nice dovetail on that, because certainly those corporate guests can fit right into, Reside a Wyndham residence in terms of the opportunities there. So we can certainly satisfy a short-term need or, of course, the extended stay opportunities. We've seen a strong recovery on the business side, again, with our business. I think that GBTA is forecasting still that global travel spend is going to exceed $2 trillion in 2028. So again, a strong outlook. We've seen our clients booking at a greater pace this year. Again, I think that there was approximately 55 to 60% of our business saw an increase in terms of trips this year versus last year. And that's really materialized into longer length of stay for us. So our typical 360 type length of stay is up about 9.5% year over year. So we're seeing a really strong impact even in our business when you look at those more macro global statistics.
Wow. Let's dive into the 360 platform a bit more here in terms of what that means, I think, for the travel manager, for the corporate buyer, how you guys are able to make this easier and for your own, this, I think it's ingenious, this sort of self-feeding cycle in terms of having your own platform that can also feed into your own properties. And in terms of the bleisure, I do have a question, and this isn't related necessarily to 360, but in terms of what does the billing look like on that? Like if, I as a company am covering the cost for the 1 month stay that's related to the actual work that's being done, and then my employees wants to stay there an additional week or two on a vacation side, are companies covering that 1 to 2 weeks, or is this something where you're able to bill both the company and the guest, or what does that look like? 'Cause
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We have the ability to bill in any manner of different ways. So many corporations are just allowing the employee to take unlimited leave or vacation time at their own expense for that period of time. But they've gotten there really on the backs of the corporate travel and the initial meetings they may have had in the jurisdiction. So we're able to handle that however they want. And that's the beauty of our 360 platform. It's super flexible. It's hyper responsive to the types of things that travel managers, procurement specialists, other groups demand really from their suppliers at this point. And as we've seen, corporate travel has moved sort of out of the HR realm over the years and much more into the procurement realm, which demands a higher level of compliance and safety and all the things that you would expect. And so our business has had to adapt to that for sure. And where we can, try to stay, 5 steps ahead of that in terms of what the expectation is for those clients.
And talking about being ahead, I'm curious about technology. So looking ahead, what business travel trends or guest behaviors do you think will most impact the future? But in terms of AI using automation or personalization in extended stays?
Yeah, we are deep into the AI, realm in terms of how we're looking at our business and what it looks like as we strategically plan for the next 5 to 10 years. There's obviously significant contributions that are already being seen in the space. And again, when you look at the millennials and the Gen Z, they expect that their booking experience, their arrival experience is going to be completely seamless, completely handled online or on an app or via AI assistance, whether that's chats or guest interactions. We're looking at all of that. And I think we've got some interesting things teed up in terms of what we'll see. That's a tool that I think every business not only needs to be aware of course, but to embrace fully. And can there be some dislocation of certain things in the business? For sure, as everything becomes more streamlined and more automated. But again, I think that's table stakes at this point. You're either looking at how AI can further power your business and be a differentiator and a real value proposition. There's really no other way around it at this point. So I think you'll see more and more of that. And like I said, the younger consumers especially are absolutely demanding it.
Absolutely. I'm interested in also what this looks like in terms of technology and the way that companies are using that, but also the way that they're measuring their success. So I do want to talk about, that the KPIs in this industry, and ADR is kind of the default. but in corporate housing, I understand could be a little misleading. How would you encourage providers to reframe success when it comes to things like contracts, long-term value, rate integrity? How does that come into play, and how are you as brand president measuring, your success and what's working, what's not working?
Yeah, I mean, another terrific question and super timely. And again, I think it comes back to our desire to be a valuable partner for our corporate clients, and making sure that we're, available to them, that we're providing them the tools and systems that they're demanding. And I think, as we go forward, that'll continue, and we'll have to continue to try to maximize that in terms of responsiveness to what their demands are.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, there's the fly buzzing around and he's bothering me. My apologies. This is what happens on live shows. I'm curious in terms then of your platform again and how these contracts work. Another big buzzword in the industry is this personalization piece. We've talked about bleisure a bit. This comes to upselling or any kind of additional revenue. Is this something that you're also able to accomplish in the extended stay space? Are you able to do those kind of things in 360? How are you looking at, again, that larger traveler experience? And how does that lean into the corporate side as well in terms of how companies are treating their executives, their employees, and the options out there for more than just work and a place to put your head?
Yeah. 360 can certainly accommodate all of those sort of ancillary upsell opportunities in terms of early check-in, late checkout, parking, pet fees, all of that. The system is comprehensively built to address all that. And again, when we talk about the corporate side, we're deferring to the relationship with the client, deferring to any SOWs or service level agreements that we may have agreed to. Typically, they're going to get some favorable rates in terms of what that looks like versus the general buying public based on volume and all those sorts of things, which is, obviously expected. So we work very closely, and it varies across the board. Some of our clients are more cost oriented, some are more value oriented, some might be more experiential in terms of how they want their employees treated. And the great thing about 360 and our business as a whole is, again, we're super nimble and flexible on that, and can really work to, partner hand in hand with these large corporate clients to deliver exactly the experience that they want. Just to give an example, we've had companies come to us and say, hey, we love the units, we love the space, we love the location, but is there any way you guys can paint the walls these colors and put these sorts of things into the property, whether that's for an intern program or just executive stays. And so again, we're happy to accommodate that and can certainly do that. So it gives a very personalized corporate experience to the guest. And then to your point also, individual traveler preferences are becoming super important. And to the extent that we can, again, dial into that, understand, hey, this is so-and-so, they traveled with us in the past, here's where they like to stay, here's where they like to eat, here's the activities they enjoy, et cetera. We can build all that into our customer profiles, and again, be super responsive to individual preferences.
Amazing. Is there also, like, I know in the corporate buyer space, at least, companies are now becoming more and more aware of the carbon footprint. There's the pressure, that they need to be able to report and get things back. Is this also something that you see upticking in terms of, the green side of the extended stay? What are properties doing, and maybe is your platform able to showcase some of that and help out in that sense as well?
It is, and you're, right on the money again with these questions. So we've spent a good bit of time investigating sort of carbon footprint, carbon offsets, and making that available to our guests as a way at the time of booking to select, hey, I'd like to eliminate my carbon footprint or buy it down or do an offset, which again is relatively cheap on the grand scale of things.
Nice.
But there is that demand in the traveling space for, hey, let's be a great corporate citizen as well. Air travel is a large carbon footprint. corporate stays can be a large corporate footprint. So how do we manage that, and how do we make it available to our guests that are really interested in that so that they can offset that? So I think you'll see some interesting things from us here in the future in terms of how we look at that on a by trip basis. And then more globally, we do publish a report every year on sort of our sustainability efforts. And I think, honestly, for a company our size, I think it's a well-rounded approach to how we're managing our footprint in the space. We want to be a good corporate citizen. Again, we want to be a good partner in the business space. And we know that these items are actionable at the corporate level. And it's something that we need to, again, be in lockstep on in terms of how we run our business. So it's super important to us. I'm excited to say that I think we'll have some more iterations of that across the board. And the other thing I would mention is we have an association with a company that provides stay well rooms, which is really taking a typical apartment or apart hotel or a multifamily apartment room and adding things like circadian lighting and certain bedding and all sorts of things that really curate an experience that is oriented towards sustainability, comfort, recovery on a long trip, jet lag. And so we've been able to offer a few of those products in, for example, our building in Manhattan. We've got a number of rooms designated as those types of opportunities for guests. And again, very well received. We'd like to expand it across the portfolio. And I think you'll see that happening here in the next little bit.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. We're coming to the final question, the final few minutes of today's show. If you can believe it or not, time flies when you are having fun. So I guess my final question for you is an actionable piece of advice that you would give to, the corporate buyers, the housing providers, the hoteliers, who are looking to better attract and serve today's extended stay guests. What's the one thing they should and could start doing today?
Yeah. I would say this: hospitality's been around forever, right? Thousands of years. And so, I'm certainly not the person that's going to have a pearl of wisdom that's going to be any more sophisticated than the next person. But the one thing I would say, and the thing we try to focus on in our business, is speed. And looking ahead, looking forward. Things are happening very quickly in the travel landscape, especially as older travelers mature and younger travelers start to step into their space. The demands are different, the expectations are different, and you have to be super nimble and be able to move very quickly. And I think the folks that can do that will have a high success rate, and the folks that don't are really going to struggle. So it's, anticipating what the guests are looking for and making sure that you're a couple years out in terms of what that expectation is.
All right. I love it. A big thank you to you, JR, for unpacking the extended stay evolution with us and just the ingenuity of, coupling Reside with a platform like 360 and how it just makes the extended stay experience, particularly for the corporate buyer and traveler, all the easier. Now, before we go, if our audience wants to learn more about you, Reside's properties, or speak with you about 360, what's the best way for them to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, they can get me directly at jr@staywithreside.com. You can get me on LinkedIn as well, under Walter Dembiec Jr., which would be great. Otherwise, you can reach out and contact the company directly, and we can arrange a time to talk. I'd love to interact with the folks watching today.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, America. Thank you as well as always. And of course, I would like to thank our sponsor, Encora, for making these amazing conversations possible. Encora does partner with leading travel and hospitality companies to accelerate their innovation through world-class engineering solutions. And of course, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow us. You can do that across a variety of socials like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and more. Also, the podcast version on Spotify, and of course our website dojo.live, where you can catch all of our past shows. And last but not least, I would like to remind you that our digital storefront series is continuing, and that will be tomorrow as well at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific, as we turn our attention to embedded booking engines and voice assistants. That's going to be with Josh Graham of Cloudbeds. Don't miss it. Thank you once again, JR. Thank you, America, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.